there. Can everyone see that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. And with this, welcome to our chat and chew about spirometry, breathing tests, anything and everything you wanted to know and ask about breathing tests. Our special guest is Sade Halabi, and she joins us from Edmonton. Thank you, Sade, for coming. I will introduce this chat and chew with some of our usual ground rules. Everyone is welcome. And we do acknowledge the unceded ancestral territories of the Coast Salish peoples, where Poplar is coming at you from, including the lands of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. If you'd like to pop the ancestral territories that you are joining us from in the chat, please feel free to do so. And we like to make a safe space for our chat and choose. So everyone comes here willingly with open hearts and open minds, free to share their thoughts, values, opinions, and ask questions without fear of judgment. And so we thank you in advance for creating this space for us. Oh. Etiquette. So as we chat and chew, we're gonna get off topic. That's totally fine. So pardon me if I come back in and nudge us back on track if we get off topic for too long. At the end of our time, after the 1 hour, we will let you know, and we will end the recording. We'll end the chat and chew, but we can stay on in the live just for a few minutes afterwards if you have any extra questions that you would like to share privately. And I'd like to take this opportunity to tell you about other events we have coming up. We have an inhaler workshop coming up this July 26th at 1 p.m. We'll be covering the Aerosphere device. And our next chat and chew is coming up on August 13th. It's a Tuesday at 2 p.m. We'll be talking about exercising in the heat, cool moves for a hot summer with Sabrina. She's a registered respiratory therapist and a personal trainer. So bring your exercise and fitness questions. And if you're looking for more information, check out our community blog and YouTube channel, poplarpulmonary.com. All right, let's get comfy and let's start chatting and chewing, shall we? So Sade, I will roll to you to get the conversation started a little bit here.
Perfect. Well, thank you for all that. So we are here to talk about breathing tests. So we've got the two types. We have spirometry, which is the shorter version, and then we have the full pulmonary function test, which is that really long test, takes about 40 minutes to an hour, depending kind of the pace of it. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is the spirometry. I thought I'll go just with each test. And if you have any questions about each one, just get them going. So with spirometry, that is two things we're looking for is if there is any tightness in the airways and how much volume you can blow out in about 6 to 15 seconds. So that's going to give us a good idea if you have somewhat of an obstructive process, let's say asthma, COPD, or if there's any indication of restriction where you would have less than normal lung volumes. Now, I don't know have all of you done a breathing test before? Yes, okay.
Nods all around. More than one? Have you done this more than one time?
Of course.
Right.
No, just you, Jeannie. Okay.
Just the one time, yeah.
The one-time torture.
Yeah. So I don't know if where you did it at. Usually we take a height and a weight at the beginning of the test because what we want to get is everyone's reference value for normal is going to be different. So that's going to be based off of your height, your age, gender, and your race comes into account as well. So that's a reset. This is your normal ideal numbers. And then when you do the test, where you're at on that scale. Okay. So in spirometry, the way it's done is we get you to breathe normal. take that really fast, full, deep breath in. And as fast as you can, you blast it out with all your might and you just keep blowing until you can't blow anymore. Okay, so has anyone had any trouble doing that test specifically? No, good. Okay.
Oh, that's usually the one that gets people, I find, because you feel like you're empty. And then the therapist is telling you, blow, blow, keep blowing. There's still stuff coming out.
Yeah. And that's exactly it. Like I get people throwing their hands in the air, like there's nothing left, but there's something still there. So that's going to be um, kind of like a prerequisite test that we get going into the others. Let us know, are you obstructive, restrictive, where we're at. So the second test we jump into, this is going off of the full testing, is that dreaded body box test. So I know, Jeannie, you had a couple of questions on this one because it's not the funnest test to do.
Yeah, have you seen the body box there, Alan or Lisa? It's a big, like a human-sized plexiglass,
Telephone booth.
like a phone booth with
Yeah,
a chair in it.
yeah. So okay, so you, Lisa and Alan, you just did the shorter spirometry version. Okay, awesome.
Was it just a handheld device that you had done it with then? It was just the shorter version and not with the big boxes? Or did you go to a lab, like a special place?
Oh, I went to a lab.
You went to a lab with a body box, right? Hi,
Right.
Shirley, welcome.
Hello.
Oh, you're still on mute.
Sorry to be late. Thank you.
Oh, that's okay.
No problem. Glad you could make it.
Yeah.
We're
So
just talking about the body box.
yeah, get into the body box and why we do it. So that test is going to let us know your total lung volume. So it's a really important one because that's a test where we're going to know, are you for sure in the restrictive side of things where your total lung volume will be reduced, or on the obstructed side where your total lung volume could be higher. So the way that one is done is you're breathing normal because we want to catch a baseline. And then we close the air off on you. So that air closes, and for a few short seconds, we get you to gently pant against the closed air. So in that time, that's when people have a lot of trouble with, super common. So kind of tip I have for that one is as soon as that air closes, you want to act as if there's a candle in front of you, a lit candle, and you're just trying to flicker the flame back and forth. So typically what happens is the technician is going to get you to hold your cheeks because we don't want your cheeks puffing out at all. So you hold them in nice and tight, and you're just going to go at that pace and that short of puffs. Does that help at all, Jeannie? Like, is that kind of similar to what you've done?
I think that that's what I do, but I think that I probably put more effort into it than what you were demonstrating. And
Yes.
then all of a sudden, like I would get really anxious, and then I would gag, and then the therapist would say, "Oh, well, we'll have to do it again." And then I'd sort of think, like, "Oh no, well, she does it at least 3 times anyway." But it's,
Yes.
and I just try to, improve each time she does it or
It's
he does it.
difficult because you're trying to move air and it's not letting you. The sensation is very odd.
Yeah, that's right. Shirley, have you done a full test before in the body box?
I've been in the box. I don't recall the part that you're talking about with the little short breaths. But my test about a year and a half ago was in one of those boxes at Jubilee at Victoria, in Victoria.
Okay. And so when we're doing just like the spirometry, the shorter test, it could be done either, sometimes it'll be done in the full box, or it could be done just as like a handheld device in a clinic office. So yeah, so maybe you just had the spirometry at that time. because I'm sure you would remember the air closing on you, because it's a memorable test, that's for sure.
Yeah,
Could
and they
you
have to
just show
close
us
the door
again
in the
what you
box.
did?
Yes.
Sorry, I cut you off there. Say again.
Could you just do that again so I could just watch what you did?
Yes, for the panting. So the biggest thing I when I'm testing is I find people do put a lot more effort than what I demonstrated. So what you want to do is going normal breathing. As soon as that air closes, you have your hands on your cheeks and you're going that short of puffs. So
Okay.
it's very, very minimal effort. Because the air is closed, we're not trying to get you to take deep breaths in back and forth or as fast as you can. We want them very shallow, tiny puffs. Again, if you imagine just a little flame in front of you and you're just trying to flicker it back and forth, that's hopefully how it'll prevent the gagging and the anxiousness. Because if it's done properly within the first couple of times, typically they're able to open the air and not have you keep going with it.
Okay.
So yeah, I hope that helps for the next time you do it. So
Yeah, I'll
the
go
less
again in
effort
November.
in November.
I think either November or December.
Okay, yeah. So keep that in mind, because with that test, it's the less work you do, the better, the better it is. Okay, yeah.
Let us know how it goes.
I will.
Please.
Yeah.
Yes,
Hopefully you only
please
have to do
do.
it the three
Yeah,
times.
that's right. That's right. So that one is typically the toughest one to do. So let us know, and if anyone else ever has to do it, let us know as well how that goes. A second part to that, though, what makes it kind of a harder test is after that panting is done, they'll open up the air and ask you to take a big breath in and then blow it all the way out to empty. So you're kind of doing two tests within one. So really, really important that the lips stay super tight on that mouthpiece. You take your full deep breath in, and you don't have to blast it out like the spirometry test, just kind of a full push out until you can't push no more. Yeah, and that'll give us a good idea. So in general, that's going to let us know, again, your total lung volume. Also, in something such as COPD, it'll let us know if there's any of that air trapping or hyperinflation, like the bigger lungs process as well too. So that's a super important test.
Yeah, maybe I can just add in too a little bit information that I think is quite interesting about that body box is so our total lung volume. You would think we would be able to measure that with a regular spirometer. So we have you take a big, big breath in and then blow it all out and just measure what came out. But actually, when we exhale fully, 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 there's still air in our lungs. So we don't exhale all of the air, even though it might feel like that at times. There's actually still air in there. And so that's why we have to enclose people in the box and have the air moving around, and they can measure the pressures. They can measure what's in the lung with that big breath, but then they can also measure the fluctuations of the pressure changes of what's in your lung as well. So that's why it's quite interesting that they have to take that into account, the air that's just always there. So it's kind of interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, super interesting. And thank you, Tina, because yeah, that gives a more important description of why we do it, and not just, oh, we close the door on you and we try to get you to breathe without air, right?
Yeah, well, because people think they blow all the air out, and we coach people, blow all the air out, but we don't say, actually, there's still air in there.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
The one where you inhale and you have to exhale immediately, I find that one hard too, because I tend to pause a second before I exhale, and then the therapist wants it done right at that split second.
Yes.
The vital capacity.
Yeah. You know what you can do too, when I find that people kind of get that hesitation and they need that little bit of time before shooting it out, I just give them a warning. So maybe you can ask your therapist, hey, just give me a quick warning before I shoot it out, and that'll give you enough time to get that, to reduce that hesitation. It's like big breath in, get ready, it's coming up, and then shoot it out.
Okay.
Yeah, you could see what they come up with.
Yeah, sometimes a lot of them, it's like a conductor and they'll use their hand. That's what I do too.
Yes.
So you can kind of know that I've, reached the peak. Yeah, it might
Yeah,
help.
that's exactly it. Yeah, the gestures help, right? That kind of gives you a good guideline of what to do. Yeah.
And I find that some therapists are easier to work with than others.
Unfortunately, hey, that's kind of the case. You never know who you're going to get.
There's,
So,
yeah, or the different techniques. When I was a respiratory therapy student, I just thought it was the funniest thing watching the RTs conduct the testing. And there were 3 different types of coaches at the lab that I was a student at. And I'll just describe the 3 different ways they went about getting people to do the breathing properly. One of the person was kind of your typical pulmonary function RT who was like loud, but like blow, 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 big in, big in, big in, blow, 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 banding, banding. And it was like very animated and describing it. And they were like, I was like an anime or something. And then the other person was very quiet, but had a high voice. And then whenever they wanted the person to blow, I felt like they were startling the person into action. They're like, "Oh," and it was like, "Oh," and they did. So that technique worked also. And then the third one was a very, very calm RT who would use his hand and he would barely speak through the whole process. All commands were almost whispered. It was like, inhale, blow. And it was just so different than every other RT. They all got the results. They just had different ways. So Jeannie, probably the RT that you're working with has their own way that doesn't mesh with your blowing. Yeah. It's pretty wild how people develop the technique of getting these results because it's such a difficult thing to coach somebody to do.
absolutely. And sometimes you have to kind of change your techniques based on who you're working with too, because we can get kids in the clinic that come on in there like as young as 5 years old, and then a whole range of people, personalities. Like it just, you kind of go with the flow at that point. Yeah.
On different languages.
Language could be a big barrier too. And that's where the hand gestures come into play because we've had that a lot. So hand gestures do wonders when it comes to that.
Did
Yeah.
anybody have any experiences they wanted to share about any challenging spirometry testing where you had to do the same test over and over before it worked out? No, oh, that's good. That's lucky. Sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really good.
I had to do mine about 4 times because I kept getting my tongue in the way when I was trying to exhale,
Mm-hmm.
getting rather upset with me. Hold your tongue down. Well, okay, fine, but I'm used to using my tongue to hold my regulator in place because I was a diver for years and years and years. It just automatically comes up to hold my regulator. Stop that. Got it. We got it. Just took a little bit of time.
Yeah. And they could see that on the waveforms, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that can be
I
a
that those at times when I can see the computer screen and I can see the wave movement, I feel personally that I have a better control of of my breathing than when I can't see the screen. Because I just feel like I'm doing the actions, but I don't know where, like I don't have a visual clue if I'm a little stronger or weaker than the previous one, other than how I feel. Whereas if I could see the screen, then at least I could see, oh yeah, I did better this time, or, that just gives me extra confidence.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. And there are some softwares, like the one I work with specifically for spirometry testing, to help you visualize blasting better. They'll put maybe like a few candles in front of you on the screen that actually blow out while you're blowing, or blasting out hard enough to fill up a balloon. So there's a few nice visuals that you can ask for if they have it available, just to give you a better idea of like what you're doing and how to do it.
That's cool. It makes it more fun. Then it's, you know what, if people feel like they're playing a video game,
Mhm.
they'll be more engaged.
That's it. Yeah. And then Alan, come back to you for the tongue in the way, because that's a really common issue too. Now there are specific mouthpieces, kind of depend on the place you go, and if you ever have to do a breathing test again, there's some mouthpieces they can add on there that kind of trap the tongue underneath and keep it out of the way. Or another little trick I like to do is I just take the mouthpiece and turn it upside, like sideways. So it's up and down, where it gives you better, like the tongue, a better way to go underneath it.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you ever have to do it again, you can to kind of play around or ask the therapist to see what they can do with it, so you don't have to do it over and over. Yeah, because that's no fun either.
Well, she was good about it and everything else, because she says I
Yeah.
use this a lot, so it just she says that you really, really have to concentrate on it, and she's right. You do. You have to concentrate because it's not natural for a lot of people.
Yeah, not natural at all. That's for sure. Yeah.
Some people have trouble staying on the mouthpiece. When we say take a breath in, they come off to take a big breath in. It's like, oh no, keep your mouth on there. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, so if anyone ever has any questions for that, blood off specifically, because there's another test we do, which is a breath hold test. I don't know if anyone's ever done that before. It's called the diffusion test.
Is that the one that has the bag that's attached to the equipment?
So it's done differently. You know what? In all the body boxes I've worked with, I've never had a bag attached. Have you, Tina, worked with one like that?
Yeah, I've seen it.
Okay.
Sometimes there's the gas that comes in through a line, and then other times they're capturing it, like the DLCO, in a bag.
Oh, fair enough. So we have, the ones I've worked with have a hose attached, not a bag. And yeah, so that is the one we're talking about. So that one is letting us know how much oxygen can actually get into the lungs and be diffused out to the rest of the body. So that's a really important test too. And the way that's done is you take a breath in, you blow it all the way out naturally to empty, and then you get a gas mixture that comes at you, and you breathe that in, hold for a few seconds, and blow it back out. So I'd say it's a bit of a easier test in a way, but you do kind of get that gas blowing at you, so you got to make sure you're really hanging on to that mouthpiece so you don't pop off there.
And I find with the nose piece, the ones that work better for me have the foam on it.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, every clinic will have a bit of different nose pieces, and some, honestly, I've had some people just hold their own nose through it because they really bug somebody sometimes having something on their face. So just kind of depends what works for you. Yeah.
That test you were describing is that one's so interesting too. So you inhale like a tracer gas, they call it, and then they can tell how much of it your body absorbed. So they gave you a certain amount, and then they measure what you blew out, and they know that the rest you soaked up. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't change. It doesn't really affect you. It's just like such a small amount. But the machines are capable of measuring how much that concentration is, and they'll measure the concentration difference. And so they know how much your body absorbs. And so there's like a normal, like Sade was saying, there's a predicted amount based on your age and your height and your weight and your gender and your airways. And so they know how much is supposed to be gone. But if there's a difference there, usually what they're looking for is to see if your body is not absorbing oxygen as much as it's supposed to. And we would see that with conditions like pulmonary fibrosis, where there's a thickening of the lung tissue and the gases just don't go across it very well anymore into the bloodstream. Or if there's your blood vessels have been damaged in any way in the lungs, that does happen with COPD too, where we see that there's just not enough blood flow by the air sacs. So that's what that's looking for. Yeah.
Yeah, that's an important one. A lot of science behind it, right? Seems very simple test to do, but a lot of science behind it.
Yeah, and fancy machines.
Yes. Yeah, and then that brings us to the end of the test, which is spirometry again. Now, in between the body box test where we close the door and the diffusion test, typically the therapist will give you a bronchodilator, so an inhaler such as Ventolin or Atrovent. And what we're looking to see is if your airways were tight, we want to see if that inhaler helped relax and open them up. So once we're done all those three tests, we go back to the beginning and get you to do that blast again to see if the airways did open up or if they stayed the same. So it gives us a good idea whether you're controlled, if you have more of an obstructive process like the asthma or COPD, or if they need to intervene a little bit. And let's say you are on inhalers, if they're not maybe working the greatest and they have to change their regime up a little bit. So yeah, you get kind of a double dosing of that blast test. That's why you do it twice on that one. Yeah.
Oh, we have Martha joining us here. Let's let her pop in. Hi, Martha.
Oh,
Hi, sorry my other appointment ran late.
Oh, well, thanks for joining us.
thank
Today
you.
was just going through the different spirometry tests. So you kind of missed some of the beginning information, but if you did have questions, we'll catch you up.
Okay, thank you. I'll just join in. No problem.
Okay.
Perfect. Yeah, and so basically there's those four main tests that we do. Usually when you're going to a test for the very first time, they will do that full one, but in some cases, if depending on your symptoms and your doctor, they might just get you to do the spirometry at first hand. And if they feel it's necessary, then they'll send you back for a full test. So that's a big thing too. So with that, the reason why they do repeat testing as well, you might go for a test and everything looks normal and like, okay, one is good enough. And if you experience more symptoms, we'll get you back in X amount of time. For others, if they have been diagnosed with a lung disease, testing is used to monitor the progression of the disease. We want to get a trend to see if you're kind of stable or how you're doing. We also want to see if your medications are working. So are they doing good? Do we have to switch them up? And another thing is a lot of specialized medications and oxygen have to be approved with a test as well. Like that's piece of the puzzle. So they'll send you back to do that for authorization and reauthorization, depending on kind of what you need. So that's why it's not uncommon to do this test more than once. Some people do it every 3 months and some people do it every year to 2 years. It just kind of depends what's going on and how much they need to monitor what's happening. Yeah, any questions about about the test or anything in regards to the technique or anything like that?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I want to back up a little bit and see what it is that would tell my doctor it's time to send me for a test. Like I've only had one in my entire life of being an asthmatic. And
Okay.
how would I work with my doctor to set up the appropriate schedule, or how, like, who triggers this?
So a lot of that is based on your symptoms. So if you go and do the test and they deem that you're pretty well controlled with are you on inhalers right now? Yeah, so if you're on the inhalers and they did the test and it seems that your asthma is under control and you're not reporting any new symptoms or symptoms that are kind of affecting you, then they might say, okay, like one was good enough. And then if you come back and say, I don't think my inhalers are working as well as they used to, or I'm feeling more short of breath than I have been, then that can kind of trigger, okay, let's get you back to test and see if there's any changes.
Yeah, it's, it depends on the treatment too. Like, so sometimes, we have these conditions that are variable, and especially asthma is a variable airways, reactive airways condition, right? And there's so much that can set them off, the time of year, the allergies, the triggers. And so because it's so dynamic, doing testing over time doesn't necessarily tell them if your disease is getting worse. Usually we go by symptoms and the amount of treatment needed. So your physician might not get flagged for needing another test if they're still managing your inhalers and your treatment based on your symptoms, which is generally how it goes. But if they're worried that there might be another process going on or something that they've missed, then they might want to do the testing again. So usually whenever we order a diagnostic test, whether it's blood tests or x-rays or spirometry, the thought is, you know what, from this test, I'm going to get some information that would change your care. So if they're already adjusting your care based on your symptoms, they might want to wait until it's stable and then use the spirometry at that point just to make sure that it is. Because like Sade was saying, you might feel like you're under control, but then we do the Ventolin check and we see, oh no, you actually could be better with maybe more medication. So it would be worthwhile checking periodically anyways, at least for that, because sometimes our symptoms don't tell us everything, and sometimes we perceive our breathing to be fine because we got used to it.
Exactly. I mean, if you've been an asthmatic your whole life, it's like, what's normal? I don't know what normal is
Yes.
anymore.
Right. Like, how long ago did you have your spirometry?
Oh, I don't even remember now, maybe a decade ago.
Oh yeah, that's a while.
Yeah, but I don't want to cost the medical system unnecessary testing, but I mean, I don't know what I should be striving for. Like, what is possible to achieve in terms of excellent breathing? Because I kind of gave up.
You should bring it up with your
Okay.
Yeah.
your
Thanks.
respirologist.
Okay.
Do you have a
Oh,
specialist?
sorry. No,
Do you
no,
have
just a GP.
and you don't have a specialist?
No.
I would ask about those two things.
Okay,
Spirometry and a specialist.
cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Because I remember in previous conversations you were mentioning some side effects too. So sometimes the specialist will be able to change up your inhalers, the ones that might not have those side effects.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Okay. Also, the asthma treatment guidelines have been changing, and the specialists are the ones that are on top of it the most. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And sometimes, unfortunately, you kind of got to be your own advocate a little bit. So if they, kind of push like, hey, I haven't had a spirometry in a really long time. I'd really like to see how my asthma's doing. So you just kind of, and it's, I'm sure, and all GPs could be really, really good, but they might think, oh, you didn't report any symptoms, so no need. But I'm sure if you ask, they'll be like, yeah, let's do it. Why not?
Tell them you were talking to a couple of respiratory therapists who suggested it might be a good idea.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah. Did anyone
I
else?
found in the past that I think it was called a brio or something like that. It was a round disc that I had to use, and I ended up asking my nurse to watch me use it because I said I didn't feel I was getting the medication, and she said I didn't have enough power to inhale the medications and to ask the nurse for a different inhaler. So then I ended up getting Zenhale after, and the Zenhale is like the Ventolin. It's kind of L-shaped, but I still have not figured out over all these years how to depress the canister and inhale at the same time. So I have to use the air chamber as a support.
Yeah, great points. I love everything you just said.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's been more than 10 years of me trying to figure out that action, but I just cannot. I don't know if it's a mental issue, but I just cannot depress it and inhale without gagging at the same time if I don't use an air chamber.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it does require coordination, but even for somebody, say, who could like press it and coordinate at the same time, the air chamber is the best way to go. So that is going to get that in medication further into the lungs than just by taking it by the mouth. And that goes for anybody. A lot of people see it as something like kids would use, because that's say they obviously can't coordinate the push, but it's not. It's for everybody. It's the best way to get that medication in. So if you have it around, or like in our clinic, we have disposable ones. So we're able to offer the patient to take the home with them because they could be costly. So that's a good thing too. So if you ever go to a test or a doctor's office, you can kind of ask for one, but best way to use it. So if you have one, then keep doing it like that, and you can forget about trying to coordinate and going through that trouble.
Yeah. And a little, we have a free inhaler technique workshops every month. So if you're watching this on video and you're looking to have your inhaler technique checked, check us out, popularpulmonary.com.
Yes, yeah. And even during the testing too, if I don't know if you've noticed, but they give you they use it with the spacer to make sure that Ventolin gets really deep in there to see if there is going to be that change. So good technique for sure.
And their inhaler classes are well worth taking. An excellent presentation because I've done a couple of them now. They're really, really good. So
Thanks, Alan.
well, you taught me how to use them right.
That's it. They say, so they've done studies about inhaler technique, and they say, I think it's about 80% of people feel that they're doing it right, because it doesn't sound like a complicated thing. And about 80% of people are making a mistake.
Yeah.
I've even taken to using my Respimat through the aero chamber.
Ah, yes.
This one here. And I
Yep. Yep,
chamber.
totally.
Yeah, it works a whole lot better.
Awesome. Yeah, those aero chambers are fabulous.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Just get one, use it.
Yes. And check out the work.
Yeah, check out the work.
Yes.
Not for every
Yeah.
type of inhaler, but certainly the MDIs.
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me. Sorry.
So any other questions about
Yeah.
spirometry or testing or anything like that?
No, any questions about the diagnostics part of it, or what they do with the information? Or the spirometry, just if you're wondering, generally, so there's a respirologist that will interpret all of the spirometry and pulmonary function testing. So every pulmonary function lab will have a respirologist, and they send the results, so all those fancy waveforms and then a big sheet of numbers. And it's always a respirologist that will interpret that, and then they'll send those results to whichever physicians you had requested. So it's not, so if you're with a GP, it will be the respirologist that interprets it. Yeah, so at least you're getting accurate interpretations on those. Yeah. And then usually when we talk about results of spirometry, we talk about it as percentage of predicted or a lower limit of normal, but usually it's a percentage of what we were predicting for that person. And so then it's easier for us to talk about it and easier for everyone to understand as well. So, you know, if it's 80% of predicted, we would consider that still normal, but below that would be lower. And usually it's volume, so there's a maximum amount, but sometimes the numbers are higher. People who are really fit, yeah, just bigger lungs than their body size might indicate. And we might notice that on x-rays too. So when they're talking about it, it's usually a percentage rather than a number, but the respirologist will also be actually looking at the number as well.
Are you talking about the forced vital capacity?
Yeah, we'll look at that one. Yeah, FVC, yeah. And it's usually a percent of predicted.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that the one that has the numbers like 1.0, 1.5?
It
Two?
could be, yes. Yes, so
Okay.
in liters.
I think that was stated to me that this was about 10 years ago, that if my numbers fell below, I'm not sure it was below 2.0 or what the magic number was, but if my numbers fell and didn't come back up, that I would be starting immunosuppressants. And so that's what happened, or that's sort of like at the time when I did start taking immunosuppressants for my treatment.
Yeah. So in your case, then they would have been checking your spirometry probably at regular intervals, knowing that maybe you were getting closer to that number or to that level to catch
Well,
it.
I had an exacerbation that it was in 2014, in the winter of 2014. So I had an exacerbation with RSV, and it was after that that I was, I guess, trying to recover, and I was having a hard time keeping that number at whatever my baseline was. And so once it fell, then the doctor said that they would give me the medication.
Yeah. Were those antifibrotics then, or was it just?
No, I was on
No.
CellCept, so it's mycophenolate mofetil. And the purpose I was given, there was 3 purposes: to reduce the inflammation, which would lead to fibrosis, to improve the lung function, and to prolong the need for a lung transplant.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, and then with that, that's when, yeah, in that case too, if they had put you on that, they're probably checking you. Do you say about once a year or every 6
Yeah, I
months?
usually get checked every 8 months.
Every month, yeah. So that's
8
another case where you're on this. So let's make sure it's still working and your numbers are either staying the same and not dropping, right? Or improving a little bit. Yeah.
Tina, you use the acronym MDI. What does that stand for?
Oh, sorry.
'Cause I don't use inhalers, so.
Okay. MDI stands for metered dosed inhaler.
Thank
And
you.
sometimes we'll call it PMDI, which is pressurized metered dose inhaler, but they're all pressurized. So
Okay.
yeah,
Thank
and those
you.
are the ones that contain a propellant, like it squirts out.
Okay.
Like Ventolin, that's the most common
Mhm.
MDI.
Oh, there
There,
we
so
go.
now it's
Thank
done.
you.
And
Thank
that
you.
is the Ventolin right there.
Yeah.
Is Ventolin and Atropine the same?
Nope, they're different.
No.
Ventolin is your rescue drug.
Yep.
Usually is what it's used for. If you're experiencing sort of a sudden or a triggered shortness of breath, and then the Atrovent would be used regularly to help prevent.
That one actually salbutamol.
Yeah, salbutamol is the
Mhm.
yeah. Every drug's got 2 names and different names in different countries.
And that's your friend, the rescue. It just comes in a pill. And there's usually about 5 or 7 in there if you need them.
Oh, is
Prednisone, is that?
yeah.
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 And doxycycline. We went for a little tour earlier in Oh gosh, beginning of June, we went up to Jasper and down through the Parkway, and somewhere along the way, I picked up COVID.
Oh,
I was told after that I am never to go any place without those two in my little bag. So
yeah.
Amazing. So you've got a good action plan there. So anyone
Yes.
who has asthma or COPD, and I think any respiratory condition should have an action plan and know exactly what to do if you run into trouble, you know what your next steps are to
Yes.
increase your medications or get help or get help. Yeah. Awesome.
Good. And I think just a couple things I forgot to mention. If you're ever going to get a test done, there are some contraindications to it as well, where they can't do the testing, such as if you've had a heart attack within the last couple of weeks, eye surgery, any type of surgery involving like the stomach or the chest area. So it's always good to give, if they don't ask, you kind of give a good little history if you have experienced anything within about the two weeks time before the testing as well. And then if you are on oxygen, they can still do the test with oxygen. Make sure you bring it to the appointment if that's ever the case. And with that, we just usually kind of monitor your oxygen through the testing and pop you on and off whenever needed. Yeah.
You're wondering why eye surgery might be a weird contraindication. When we do the testing, the pressure in your chest varies a lot. It really swings, high pressure and low pressure, and that can affect your blood pressure and your blood flow through your body. And so if you're, bearing down or something, it can make blood flow coming from your head back to your heart slow. And so it could build up some pressure in your head there for a second. And we wouldn't want any eye surgery to be negatively impacted by that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Seems like an interesting contraindication, right?
Yeah, because you're doing lots of work during that during that test. So I want to make sure you're nice and clear before doing so.
Yeah, it's exertional. Maybe don't go to the gym that day.
Yeah, that's right.
The day
Skip the work.
before either.
And what was that, Jeannie?
And not the day before either. Like not a big workout the day before.
And you're too tired.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. We only have a few minutes left. Did anyone have any other questions before we say goodbye? Okay.
But the eye surgery is a really good one to talk about early and frequently. I hadn't thought of it, and only once did they ever ask me, and it happened to be the right once.
Oh,
I had just had cataract surgery.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
And they asked me, and that's been the only time they've asked me that question. Yeah.
Wow.
So
That's
I hit it
wow.
lucky.
Very lucky.
Yeah.
Wow. Phew.
interesting. Like with our the clinic I work for, we give everyone a questionnaire, no matter how many times they've come to the clinic. Every time they come to do a test, we ask them all the questions, eye surgery
Oh.
and type of history, because things change, right? So we want to be sure to catch it before we get them in there, and then it's a bit too late.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so now you guys know, if they don't ask, tell them.
Tell them, yeah.
Yeah.
Spread the word.
Yes, that's right.
In all your support groups.
Mhm.
Yeah, you should send a checklist out.
Mhm.
That's right.
Yeah.
This has been a wonderful session. I enjoyed it.
Awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a pleasure. I'm really glad you guys took the time to come and chat into with us.
Yeah, thank you so much for
Yeah.
joining us. And
Well,
we hope
thank
we'll
you.
see
Thank
you
you.
next time. And I'll share my thank you screen here. Can I get this going? Thank you, thank you, thank you. So yeah, we hope you enjoyed it. And if you're watching it on video, we hope you enjoyed it. And please do share your ideas about what other topics you'd like. Feel free to throw it out there, comment in our popular community or under our YouTube videos. just let us know what you would like to know about, because we really want to create content that is meaningful and interesting for everybody.
Mhm.
So
Thank
thank
you.
you so
Have a
much.
good day.
Thanks very much.
Thanks,
Thank
Thank
everybody.
you.
Always
great day.
worthwhile. Thanks.
you.
See you all next time.
Yes, see you next time.
See you next time, Jamie.
Enjoyed it once again. Very, very informative. So, have a good night.
Thanks, Ellen. Good to see you
Wonderful.
again.
Thank you. And let us know whenever, if you guys ever do tests again in that big chat in that community, let us know how it goes and if the tips worked.
Have a great weekend.
Have a good weekend.
You
Stay
too.
cool.
Yes.
You too, Ellen. Stay cool. Hope you have a good trip.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're leaving tomorrow, and I'm taking my my N95 masks in case we do a lot of smoke. But
Yeah.
Yeah, good call.
so yeah,
And bring things to cool you down. Little handheld fans can help with shortness of breath too.
well, I think I'm gonna go out fishing. So if I get hot, I'll just have to submerge in the water a little bit.
Awesome.
Oh, and it would just slide into the water, get nice and full, carry on fishing.
Perfect.
Great idea.
Okay, good
Okay,
afternoon, y'all.
thanks.
Okay,
Bye.
bye.
Bye, guys.